From the beautiful University District, this is your Daily Detroit Update edition recorded on Monday, February 25th, 2019. I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Sven Gustafson. Welcome to your Monday show, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend.
Definitely. And in case you were wondering from that intro, we're doing something a little new here. Our update editions are going to be where we catch you up with today's news. So no long interviews. What we're going to do is take our interviews and put them into interview editions. Let's pay some bills. Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Bamboo Detroit. With an inclusive community, flexible modern offices, classes, and networking events, Bamboo Detroit helps entrepreneurs and innovative companies launch, land, or expand in Detroit. Become one of more than 400 members today at bamboodetroit.com.
The talk of the town today is Detroit's name dropping at last night's Oscars award ceremony. Some people aren't too happy about it. While accepting his Academy Award for Best Picture, the director of Green Book, Peter Farrelly, had this to say.
Tom Kartsotis and Shinola watches, unbelievable. They're saving Detroit.
Kartsotis is one of the founders of Shinola. Green Book won Oscars for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay, while Mahershala Ali won Best Supporting Actor for his performance as the pianist Don Shirley. Green Book itself has become a lightning rod for those who feel that films involving people of color and race often have a white character who plays the primary hero. For its part, Shinola quickly issued a statement. The brand congratulated Farrelly for his win, but said in part, quote, Peter has been a friend of the brand for years, and the Shinola shout-out during his speech was completely unplanned and unexpected. While we are so thankful for the love, we did want to make it clear that without the city of Detroit, there would be no Shinola. The city gave our brand life, and it's something we will never take for granted, end quote.
But man, Sven, the reaction online has been strong. And I think one of the reasons this sets so many people off is that Detroit's been getting a lot of press lately for newer businesses and groups. And for the most part, those who have stuck it out here and kept the lights on, well, I mean, they've been kind of ignored.
Right, like the newcomers are saving everything, and, you know, nothing that was here before and stuck it out has mattered.
Well,
which is ridiculous.
Absolutely. There's nothing more annoying when people say Detroit's a blank canvas or whatever. And the other thing is that this shout out isn't just an oversimplification of Detroit's story. Shinola does have a Detroit assembly factory, and it does put people to work in the city. But it's nowhere near, say, like what auto plants used to do. Or, I mean, people forget one of the biggest employers in the city is actually the Detroit Medical Center. Things have shifted. And, Shinola has about 400 or so employees around the country, but it's nowhere near like the thousands that many others have.
Or that auto plants, like a single auto plant could, especially back in the day, might have employed 10,000 people.
Oh, exactly. But the other thing about this is that it is an indicator. It's an indicator that all the marketing, Shinola wraps subway stations in New York saying Shinola Detroit. There's online commercials, there's ads everywhere. And I think nationally in people's minds, Shinola is kind of like the Detroit 3. It's become synonymous to Detroit, them and their watches.
Well, and they definitely, I think that's intentional on the part of Shinola. They latched onto it both because they want to be known for building something here, but they're certainly embracing the Detroit brand and that coolness factor and that hipness thing,
Well, there was that magazine article that talked about how they actually did user testing with possible buyers, consumer testing, and found that the Detroit name had more influence with consumers than Made in America. So this was a very intentional move, but very bright from their perspective. I gotta say that I think this is an indicator of what's to come. I mean, Detroit's comeback's got a long way to go, if we're brutally honest.
Of course.
There is a long runway. And in order for that to happen, there's going to have to be a lot more investment and a lot more companies. And I feel like this is not going to stop.
No single company is going to be saving Detroit either. Let's be clear about that.
Oh, very clear. And there's a lot here before any of these companies showed up. And the power of Detroit's and its people, I just wish more people outside of the city kind of realize that. This is a question that's going to go on for a while. I think about my last trip to Philadelphia, which was an awesome town, by the way. And to me, what I thought was really interesting was I went to one of their, bad shopping blocks. People were like, oh, there doesn't have all the nice stuff. And it was, completely off the beaten path. It was more than a few blocks away from the Airbnb. But I mean, that place had more stores and shopping and restaurants than some of our best ones. And this was supposed to be like the bad area. I was really blown away with that. Every time I go to another city, I'm always blown away with, if you go to Midtown, think about when we go to the Detroit Shipping Company studios, when we sometimes record the show there with Podcast Detroit, you go half a block away from there.
Oh, and it's like, it's vacant. It's
leveled.
It's empty. Yeah.
You would never see that.
Well, I mean, even Woodward downtown, I mean, the turnaround just in the past 5-10 years has been incredible, very dramatic, but there's still a lot of empty storefronts down there. No doubt about it.
Yeah, this is not a complete turnaround. It's a nascent one, and I'm excited about it. But at the end of the day, this city can't turn around if the average income of most of its residents is something like $28,000 a year.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy low.
And the illiteracy level is what? Some people say it could be as high as like 50%, I think I've heard before, right?
Yeah, if 50
poverty level,
functional literacy, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and poverty level at 30-something%. I mean, they're all terrible metrics. Like those to me are like the bottom line indicators that like we really need to pay attention if anybody or anything is going to quote unquote save Detroit, we have to fix those forces. A neighborhood grocery store is coming to a hard hit part of Detroit's west side. Proprietor Raphael Wright writes on Medium that he's opening a new bodega in the Russell Woods neighborhood of Detroit, along with partner Sonia Green, who owns the building. It'll offer fresh produce, prepared foods, and a small selection of beauty care, paper goods, and more. Tentatively called Glendale Mini Mart, the market will open at Glendale and Linwood. That's just south of Davison and a few blocks west of the Lodge Freeway. It also would be a Black-owned grocery store. It and the other one Wright is trying to get off the ground in the Island View neighborhood would be the only two of its kind in Detroit, a city that's around 80% African American. The store will also act as a training center for local residents who aspire to get into food, retail, and management. The project has raised $44,000 through crowdfunding and has gotten some funding from a variety of nonprofit and government sources, including Motor City Match. But Wright says in his post, there's still a $100,000 funding gap. There's a link to his post that has pictures of the space pre-renovation in our show notes.
One of Detroit's most notorious commercial property landlords has added an empty Mexicantown restaurant to his real estate portfolio. The Detroit News reports that Dennis Keffalinos has purchased the building that formerly housed El Zocalo on Bagley Avenue for $1.2 million. The restaurant has been closed since 2016. Keffalinos says he'd like to see it reopen as a Mexican restaurant by the summer. Keffalinos, through his Boydell Development Company, is the owner of many Detroit properties, including the Russell Industrial Center off of I-75, the former Roosevelt Hotel in Corktown, and Nicky's Pizza and the Bazooki Strip Club in Bricktown. Many of his properties have sat vacant for years. Residents at many of the loft apartment buildings he owns have complained about unsafe living conditions. The city ordered the Russell Industrial Center evicted in 2017 after it found a number of code violations and what it called a, quote, blatant disregard, unquote, for laws and regulations.
Jerry, you just stumbled across what turns out to be one of his newer properties just the other day.
Yeah, I was leaving a presser for what we covered with the neighborhood investment with Mike Duggan last week, and I looked out the former police precinct, and there it is, Burrito Border. Not Border Burritos, but Burrito Border, and Border, Boardr, which leads me to wonder, is it a restaurant or a place for burritos to crash?
It's like an Airbnb for burritos.
Airbnb burrito?
This is on West Verner, of course, in a former tire shop. Apparently, Keffalinos acquired that property back in June of last year for just over $57,000. Not sure yet what he's got planned there.
But that is going to be a very hot area. You could throw a baseball and hit the Ford property for Michigan Central Station from there.
Yeah. As we were talking earlier, though, it's interesting that the former El Zocalo property stayed on the market as long as it did.
I'm really surprised about that one too. That is the area of Mexicantown that everybody unquote knows about. You know, you got
right off the freeway and
Los Galenes, Xochimilco, all that stuff. I mean, really good food. Don't get me wrong, but to me, Mexicantown spreads a lot farther. But I feel like this is the beginner's Mexicantown right there. But I'm surprised it sat for that long. And I find it interesting they're going to do yet another, or they're thinking they're going to do yet another Mexican restaurant when I feel like that building could be used for a variety of purposes. Maybe you could do a restaurant on the bottom, maybe actually put people like living up top or something interesting like that.
Or doing car bombs in the back patio garden there.
Definitely have in the back of that place. That was the last time I've ever drank a car bomb, and I will never forget it for all the wrong reasons.
From across the river comes some good news for cyclists. If you want to take advantage of the bike lanes on the Gordie Howe International Bridge between Detroit and Windsor, well, you won't have to pay a toll. That's the plan anyway, according to François-Philippe Champagne. He's a member of Canada's Parliament. The CBC reports that he visited Windsor on Thursday to discuss the new bridge. Bridge officials announced in 2017 that the bridge would feature bike and pedestrian lanes separated by a concrete barrier from vehicle traffic. The most recent estimates say that the new bridge should be completed by the end of 2024. Jared, I gotta say, I love this idea of not charging a fare, and I cannot wait to bike the bridge, go over there to the Sandwich neighborhood in Windsor that's kind of south of the Ambassador, and get a beer on a lovely afternoon in the summer or fall.
I've always wanted to get a beer and a sandwich in Sandwich.
Now's your chance on a bike.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends at Milo Digital. Milo Digital is a full-service digital marketing agency that engineers quality results through data and innovative strategies. Learn more at milodetroit.com.
How come? Because I'm the Fonz. Hey!
Motor City Comic Con keeps getting more household names for their event this May. This time, it's Happy Days star Henry Winkler. That's right, the Fonz. Autographs will set you back $40 and photos cost $60 over and above the get-in-the-door ticket price. The Motor City Comic Con runs May 17th through 19th at the Suburban Collection Showplace in Novi. Weekend pass will cost you $80.
A Detroit suburb is getting a well-deserved mention for their food. Dearborn, and I gotta tell you, if you haven't eaten in Dearborn, I highly encourage it, has a ton of great eateries and restaurants. The news is that Thrillist puts Dearborn in their top 11 suburbs in the country to eat. Of course, I'm biased being from around here, but I have to agree. When you think about food in Dearborn, I think you should open your horizons. I mean, there are great hamburgers, a couple of them. The Nacho Burger at Tasty's, which is in a gas station, but I highly recommend it. Or the old school sliders over at Miller's. You could do Middle Eastern. You could do Alamir. You could do Sheba. I got to give a shout out to Shatila for their baklava. It's really good stuff. One thing I got to put you on to, and I need you to find, is Ashta. It's Lebanese ice cream. It doesn't melt as fast, and it has kind of like an elastic texture to it. I last had it at this La Gelati place in Dearborn Heights, but seriously, get in touch with us if you have another place for me to try, because I love that stuff. It's really, really good. And of course, I mean, if you want to do the Detroit style thing in Dearborn, there is a Buddy's. So whatever you want, Dearborn's pretty much got when it comes to food.
Detroit City FC has announced it will be taking on a familiar rival with a new name in its final preseason tune-up match. The Rouge will travel for a May 4th friendly against the Flint City Bucks. That's the team formerly known as the Michigan Bucks, which played its home matches at Ultimate Soccer up in Pontiac. The new Flint City Bucks play in League 2 of the United Soccer League. The team was originally known as the Mid-Michigan Bucks when it launched in Saginaw in 1996, before being rechristened as the Michigan Bucks. They now play at Kettering University's Atwood Stadium. City kicks off its regular season of NPSL play on May 12th.
If Detroit City FC wins, could they say that the buck stops here? Downtowns and their businesses in Oakland County have until April 30th to apply for up to $2,500 in matching grants to support small businesses. The Spirit of Main Street micro business grants are part of a partnership between Main Street Oakland County and Genesis Credit Union. This is the second year of the program. In 2018, Spirit of Main Street grants were awarded for signage, marketing support, website development, and building renovations. Recipients were in Pontiac, Holly, Royal Oak, Highland, Ortonville, and Berkeley. More information and application forms are at mainstreetoaklandcounty.com, and of course we'll link to that in the show notes. A second round of funding is planned in August. This next story is half appropriate for me, punchkis, and half appropriate for Sven, running. See, Fat Tuesday is only a week away, which means it's almost time for Punchki Day. Sven, what's your favorite punchki?
Well, we were talking about what we're going to order next week, right? And I put in for a prune punchki because I really want to try it. I think I've had the plum. I liked plum a lot, and lemon also I got to go with.
I sense a consensus favorite around here is the raspberry. Personally, raspberry is my favorite. I was glad to see that Shy and Randy had that in their order list, but we'll make sure to get you a prune.
All right, cool.
Well, back to the run. This Saturday is Tour De Troit's 7th annual 5K punchki run through the streets of Hamtramck. And this year, Governor Whitmer will be joining in on the running festivities. Her goal for 2019 is to complete 60K in races throughout the state of Michigan.
That's awesome. You go, girl.
You can still sign up for this year's Punchki Run. It's $40 per person, and the money goes towards renovating parks in Hamtramck. We'll have a link with more details in the show notes.
I might have to sign up for the Punchki Run this year. I've never done it and looked at it for many years. I think this might be the year I run it. That'll do it for today's show, friends. Thanks so much for listening. Like what you're hearing? Tell a friend about Daily Detroit. Or become part of our show by becoming a Patreon member at patreon.com/dailydetroit. I'm Sven Gustafson.
And I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
Autographs with the Fonz will set you back $40,000.
You better get a lot more from the Fonz.